The COVID-19 pandemic affects everyone, everywhere. But it affects different groups of people differently.
Yeah, for example, men have a much higher death rate from COVID.
Deepening existing inequalities. Early data indicates that the mortality rates from COVID-19 may be higher for men, but the pandemic is having devastating social and economic consequences for women and girls.
You know, it's killing more men always has to be followed by a but.
Today, we are launching a report that shows how COVID-19 could reverse the limited progress that has been made on gender equality and women's rights.
Yeah, this never happened, by the way. Effects on employment and income were far more severe on men, and areas where men were already behind, like health, life expectancy, education, the effects were more severe on men there as well.
And recommends ways to put women's leadership and contributions at the heart of resilience and recovery.
Men have higher death rates, but equality is all about pretending that women's contributions are far more important.
Nearly 60% of women around the world work in the informal economy, earning less, saving less, and at greater risk of falling into poverty.
Most women around the world live in households that also have men in them, so they don't just live from a joint income.
As markets fall and businesses close, millions of women's jobs have disappeared.
But more of men's jobs, as there were more men's jobs to begin with, at least in the paid formal employment sector. And all recessions over the last 20 years have had a harder and more long-term effect on men, especially for unemployment.
At the same time as they are losing paid employment, women's unpaid care work has increased exponentially as a result of school closures and the increased needs of older people.
Well, that's alright, because they're not doing the paid employment anymore, right? The workplaces have been shut. Also, less needs for old people because they've largely been confined. Or died, of course. In fact, in some ways it might be a positive that more men can be at home at the same time that children are. Whether you see that as lightening the burden that women have, or as giving men the same opportunities that women have already had.
These currents are combining as never before to defeat women's rights and deny women's opportunities. Progress lost take years to regain.
So far this elderly globalist dude has offered absolutely no examples whatsoever of any hardship inflicted on women by the pandemic.
Teenage girls out of school may never return.
Well, luckily for the 13-year-old girls, they are currently doing way better in education than 13-year-old boys or men of any age group.
I urge governments to put women and girls at the center of their efforts to recover from COVID-19.
So the obvious question is, why? Why do you want that? Women have not been most heavily affected. Women have not had the most severe consequences. Women have had significantly lower death rates. So why are we putting women at the centre?
That starts with women as leaders, with equal representation and decision-making power.
Always about the handful of people at the top with a feminist, isn't it? Because, you know, the people dying and becoming unemployed, missing out on education, those aren't the same people who are in the ruling class. They're not the same people who are leaders or being elected as representatives.
Measures to protect and stimulate the economy, from cash transfers to credits and loans, must be targeted at women.
And again, the question is why? Women have not been most harshly affected. Spending money on women in this way is not going to benefit society anymore. So why do it?
The pandemic has also led to a horrifying increase in violence against women. Nearly 1 in 5 women worldwide has experienced violence in the past year.
Let me just check some government statistics here. Oh, look, turns out that actually the increase in violence has been much bigger against men, and the total amount of violence also much bigger against men.
Many of these women are now trapped at home with their abusers, struggling to access services that are suffering from cuts and restrictions.
While for men in the same situation, there are no services. Whether they've been cut or restricted or not, these services are never available to men.
COVID-19 is not only challenging global health systems, but testing our common humanity.
Common humanity would mean all of the humans. It means not focusing on women and girls when they are the least affected group.
Gender equality and women's rights are essential to to getting through this pandemic together, to recovering faster, and to building a better future for everyone.
How exactly? Any examples? Any examples of how it might help everyone? No, I don't think so.